Hey folks, it's Susan Edwards at the Rock Shop at 311 Broadway in historic downtown Paducah, where positive energy works. And today I want to talk about something that I learned in spiritual counseling certification called Tolerations, and how you can make your life a lot better and a lot happier if you don't deal with tolerations. What is that? Stick around and I'll tell you. So what's a toleration? Well, a toleration is when you're putting up with something. And life can give us many, many opportunities to see what I call universal piles of poo deposited in the middle of our floor. So what kinds of things? Well, let's say you're in a relationship and it goes south. Somebody betrays you. You lose someone. You need to face your addictions. You need to face your fears. You need to face your debt. You need to face that you're gambling too much, or eating too much, or eating not enough, or you're afraid to go out, or you're afraid to stay in. Whatever. There's a lot of things in our life that start to pervert our daily living. And so we're just going to call this a pile of poo. So the universe delivers a pile of poo in the middle of your floor. And what am I going to pick? Well, let's pick that you like to fight. Okay, so let's just say you got to be right. And so no matter what is going on around you, you're like, I've got to be right. You've got to agree with me. You've got to validate me by saying that I am right. And I will spend the rest of my days convincing you that you are wrong. Okay, so let's say your addiction is to the drama of fighting. So the universe delivers a pile of poo in the middle of the floor. It's your addiction to fighting, to being right, to being the control freak. And so you notice, whoo, boy, that's a big pile of poo in the middle of my floor here. And so, you're not ready to deal with it, and it's big and stinky and steamy. And so you're like, yeah, I'm not going to deal with that right now. I'll get to it later. And then you realize, oops, I almost stepped in that pile of poo, and I certainly don't want to do that because it's stinky, steamy, and would make a big mess. So you build a little barrier around it so that it makes sure that you don't run into it. And that doesn't really help all that much. You're backing up, you got something in your hand, you're backing up, and you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. And you hit the fence, the little barrier that you put up. And so you're like, you know what, I better put on some warning signs. So you get this elaborate little alarm system so that if you get close, it's like the proximity thing, and they're like beep, 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 beep. So back up, you're going to hit it. You're going to hit the fence that's around the pile of poo in the middle of the floor. And you're like, oh, well, yeah, no, that's too loud. That's too loud. So you put a little handmade muffler over the speaker system, and, that seems to help. But you really don't see it at night either. So now you get out the lights, and you've got it lit so that you can see that the pile of poo is there and you don't step in it, right? Even though you've got the fence, and you've got the warning lights, and you've got the sound system, all of that. And then you're like, well, you know what? It's really inconvenient. So you build a bridge to go over the pile of poo, and it's kind of rickety. You're not much of a carpenter, if you know what I mean. And so now you've got this contraption that goes over it, but now you've noticed that, it's attracting some flies, and it really still kind of stinks. And so you get a big fan, and you're blowing the fan, but you got to keep the window open because you got to air it out, and it's really not very convenient because it's blowing stuff around in your apartment or your house or your room or wherever this pile of poo is, blowing, around in your life. And so now you've got this elaborate kind of thing, and then somebody comes over and says, wow, that's really a stinky pile of poo you got there. And now you feel guilty because you got a pile of poo in the middle of your floor. And so you got to deal with the guilt. And you're like, oh, and then you come up with all kinds of elaborate reasons why you have a pile of poo in the middle of your floor. And all of the explanations, well, I built this barrier, and then I've got the sounds and the lights, and I've got the fan, and I've got all of these strategies in place to deal with this pile of poo. So it should get better in, not very long period of time. And they're just like, okay, you could just clean up the pile of poo. So this goes on and on and on in your life, and you become more obsessed with the strategies to deal with the pile of poo, with contraptions and go-arounds and workarounds, and pretty soon, you come to the conclusion, you know what, this apartment is just way too small. I just don't have any room to get around this pile of poo anymore. I'm going to have to get a bigger place to deal with this big pile of poo. You see where I'm going with this? Yeah. So what's the alternative? Pick up the pile of poo. Deal with whatever it is that is in your life that you are tolerating. And don't build strategies to go around it. Clean it up. And sometimes that's difficult, and sometimes you find it very hard to face your fears. But in my experience, every time that I have finally gotten up my courage to face whatever it is that I've been tolerating, I find that it was really a pretty simple fix. And all this elaborate strategy that I put around trying to deal with it was way, way more trouble than just dealing with whatever it is that I was being bothered by. So put your plastic gloves on, put on your respirator. If you need to put on some safety glasses, do that. Jump in there and clean up your pile of poo. In the long run, it is much easier. So that's what a toleration is. It's putting up with a pile of poo that life has deposited in the middle of your floor, and then just walking around it every time you go through that area. Clean it up, folks. So that's my challenge. Write down in the messages below what you're tolerating right now. Is it a pile of bills on the dining room table? I think everybody has a pile of stuff on their dining room table. Is it a relationship that you need to have an honest conversation about? Is it that dust bunny that's starting to grow its own little life over there in the corner, and you just keep walking around it? Is it your socks that you've left in the middle of the floor? What's your toleration? So write down below, what is your toleration, and then how did you fix it? So what's your pile of poo? I hope you're having a great day, and check in. Be sure you subscribe, and be sure you hit that little the bell, and that's going to tell you when I come out with new videos. Have a great day. This is Susan at the Rock Shop, 311 Broadway in historic downtown Paducah. Have a great one.